If it came to stricter regulations, Michelle, you would accept that? You think the executive would do whatever is necessary to stop people needlessly moving around?
Yes, of course, we have to do that, and I think that's where we will end up. I mean, I think that it's reckless of some people to still be gathering. I mean, I would say to young people, my message would be more of a encouragement message to say, you're not invincible. I know you think you're invisible. We've all been there. You know, we once thought we were invincible also. But we need you to really to respect the fact that we're trying to save lives and you actually have your part to play in all of that. I think the economic measures that were announced last week go some way to be able to give assurances to people in terms of their livelihood so that they'll have an income. So anybody who's not an essential service should be shut down. Anybody who's not on the front line providing food, providing pharmacy services, anybody who's not in that category, I believe you should be shut down. That is where we are going here in terms of our approach to tackling what is this such an unprecedented situation. So please don't be reckless to employers that are still asking their staff to come into work. If you're not an essential service, please shut down.
We know that there are vulnerable people in our society. They are our relations and our friends. They need to be shielded. NHS England's planning to write to 1.5 million of the people who are most at risk, advising them not to go out for 12 weeks. As simple as that. Don't leave your house for 12 weeks. Is something similar likely to happen here, do you think?
Yes, so we're working on our way through all of this because we have to do this. We have to reinforce these messages. That is going to be so challenging. Imagine asking anybody to stay inside their home for 12 weeks. It's a beautiful day today. People naturally want to be out and about, but we need to protect lives. This is about saving lives. So we're all, as a society, going to have to be creative about how we communicate with those people, that they're not left isolated, that we mind their mental health, that we all mind our mental health through this period. And I think I have been astounded by the amazing community spirit that's out there. People want to do something. Everybody wants to help. Everybody recognises that they have a part to play. So we're going to have to try and find ways to reach people. The number of images I saw of grandchildren talking to their grandparents through windows or people singing outside people's windows, people are amazing and they're going to need to be amazing throughout the next period.
Are some of the other old, very understandable rules and regulations in terms of procurement, are they being set to one side now to enable us to respond in as nimble and speedy a way as possible? I mean, for example, there's a company in Galway which makes ventilators, Medtronic, scaling up production by 40%, hopes to double its capacity soon. That's ventilators actually ready to be bought. Are we talking to companies like that? Are we talking to Randox about its testing kits, which are being sold all over the world, but not apparently being bought by the Health Service here in Northern Ireland?
So to state the obvious, we're not living in normal times. So the rule book has to be thrown out the window. Conor Murphy, as the Finance Minister, has told every executive department that do not go down the route of normal procurement, do not go down the route of how we normally do business. So we need to be agile, we need to respond very quickly, very decisively, act fast. That's the advice from the World Health Organization. So Conor Murphy, as the Finance Minister, has committed to working with the other departments because our emergency services across the board are telling us they don't have enough PPE. So he is now committed to going and actually attracting and getting more PPE so that we have it for our frontline staff, because we're going to need more and more as we go into the weeks and months ahead. He's also, as Arlene has said, looking at and working with Invest NI around some of our companies who are offering to help actually to readjust what they normally produce to give us more ventilators when we need them. So these are not normal times and we have to behave in that approach. So I think this is the right approach. We need to act very fast. We need to be very decisive. We need to ramp up our testing. We need to buy more PPE and those things that we need to do, because that's what the public that's what the frontline staff are telling us that they need.
Yeah, and you met nurses and nurses leaders yesterday. You listened to their concerns. The issue of personal protective equipment is something that they are clearly concerned about. That is a matter of public record. Do they have a point? And the reason I ask that question, and again, the last thing any of us want to do is to frighten or alarm people this morning. But on the Andrew Marr programme, we had Dr. Ranesh Parmar, who's chair of the Doctors Association and himself a critical care doctor, who said on this channel a short time ago that in his view, he said, doctors are being treated like cannon fodder because the correct equipment is not currently available. That is of concern to hear somebody say that, is it not?
Of course it is. And that's when I met the nurses yesterday. I sat down for over 2 hours. I listened very carefully to their heartfelt pleas to allow them, what they were asking me and what they were asking from the executive is that we continue to work with them to support them to do their job. So they're asking for simple things. For example, uniforms. They need additional uniforms. They're asking for changing facilities so that they can come to work in clothes and then change. They're asking for support for their childcare because we find ourselves in extreme times and they're going to be expected to be in the front line even more than ever. They were asking for us to bring forward additional PPE. And particularly not just, and this was for nurses from right across a range of disciplines, even those out in the community, you know, going door to door, going into different people's homes, they don't feel that they're protected. So our job as an executive has to be to support those staff to do the job that we need them to do. And the other thing that they raised was the issue of testing. They don't want to be isolated in their homes if someone in their houses has symptoms and they all have to then lock down for 14 days. What they're asking for is for them all to be tested really quickly so they can get back to work, because we're going to need them, and they know that. So these were very anxious staff, but they weren't asking for platitudes, because we know that they are amazing. They're asking for support, and we as an executive will make sure we do everything we can to deliver that support.
So you met Pat Cullen from the Royal College of Nursing yesterday for 2 hours, as I understand it, Michelle. She says, unless there is widespread coronavirus testing of all key health workers, there will not be a functioning health service. Do you agree with her?
I do agree with her. The World Health Organization has said we must test, test, test. That is key to us getting out the other side of this. So we have to do everything we can to ramp up the testing. We have a surge plan now that's been published by the Department of Health. We expect that to be continually refreshed. We expect more announcements in terms of testing next week. But testing is going to be a crucial part of us getting through this and coming out the other side.
Very quick word on schools. It was an issue that was complicated. Is there going to be further clarification, Michelle, at the start of the week, so that everybody knows precisely what is and what is not available?
So let's be clear, schools are closed, but the school's estate is being used to support those key workers that actually need to get out onto the front line. So just to give you an example, even of my own area, one of the schools that's actually went out and asked people if they needed the service. Nine pupils have come forward. So what we're going to have to do is work our way through this, support our key line services, use the school's estate, but schools are closed. Do not send your children to school.
OK, thank you both very much indeed.